Hey, welcome to the channel. My name's Tom Pito, and today I'm going to help you master the single dumbbell overhead squat. It's a really challenging one, especially from a mobility and flexibility point of view. So I'm going to give you some drills on how you can improve those areas, and also some technique tips on the overhead squat itself and how you can make it a little bit easier and a little bit more effective for you. Let's take a look at the full overhead squat, and I'll break it down into some progressions back up to that full squat.
So start off by snatching the dumbbell up to the top position. You want to hold that dumbbell central to your weight, so between your 2 feet rather than offset to one side. I wouldn't worry too much about how low you go, just focus on keeping a good shape without curving your back forwards or even excessively arching your back. Make sure your heels stay in contact with the floor or some plates, and you might want to put your other arm out front for a little bit of counterbalance.
If you're struggling with flexibility for it, I recommend trying wearing some lifting shoes like I was in the demo just then. Lifting shoes have a higher heel than an average shoe. They also generally have a flat sole and they're a lot sturdier, so they won't move around as much. There's not a spongy heel, but more importantly, that heel elevation will make it a little bit easier on your ankle flexibility. So if you haven't got lifting shoes though, you could just use some plates and regular shoes, and that'll work just as well. Putting your heels on the plates, and it'll really help with your mobility. Without those, I can still do it, but it's definitely a lot easier with that heel elevation. One other thing that can help with your overhead squats is where you hold the dumbbell. So I recommend holding the dumbbell closest to the little finger side of the dumbbell with your hand jammed right up against this. This means when it's in this overhead position, I've got a little bit of counterbalance, pulling that weight backwards so the arm's not falling forwards as easily. And I like to also let the dumbbell tilt back and hang slightly behind my body. And I find that counterweight really helps. If I hold the other edge of the dumbbell, it tends to pull me forwards more, making it more difficult. So another thing to look at is foot angle and knee position. So with my overhead squat, I actually use a slightly wider stance than let's say a back squat or a front squat. And I also like to turn out slightly. I think just because my hips are a little bit tight, I find it easier. But if you have widened your stance and turned your toes out, make sure that you're also externally rotating the knees to match so that we don't have a knee collapse to the center. So I like that wide stance, consciously keeping the knees apart. Probably naturally I want to do that, but I'm going to keep them apart, and that just gives me a nice solid support around my hips and also makes it feel better for my lower back. One tip for the overhead position is not just to hold the dumbbell, but actually to reach the dumbbell actively up. So as I sink down, I'm reaching this dumbbell up as if I'm trying to touch the ceiling with it, rather than just loosely holding it. You'll find that it's not a very strong position for your shoulder, and also the dumbbell might fall forwards more. So far, I've just been using this medicine ball as a depth marker to make sure I'm consistently hitting depth on my squats, but it's also really good as a mobilization drill. If you've got a plate, you could also use a light dumbbell for this as well. And we're just gonna open out the upper back and the lats a little bit. So you're gonna lean back with your shoulder blades on the ball. I'm going to tuck my tailbone under slightly so that I'm not overarching my lower back, and then you're going to maximize the opening out of the chest. I like to do 3-second holds rather than a long hold, so I'll do 10 reps, 3 seconds each. Two mobility drills that are really useful for the overhead squat are the Underhand Hang, which is really good for a little bit of external rotation on the shoulders and to release the lats, and also the single arm hang. So I'm going to show you those now. So the Underhand Hang, I like to let my head come through the center, feel that nice stretch in the lats, and then the single arm hang you can do either assisted
with one arm on the side of the rack in an overhand position, or you can do it without. I'll show you both. So this would be the assisted hang, or if you've got the control, make sure your body's not rotated, you can go for a single arm hang. Thanks for joining me for that. Let me know in the comments, how are you getting on with your overhead squats? And did you find any of those tips useful? If so, which ones? If you did like that video, please do hit the like button and support the channel. Check out my other exercise tutorials or join me for a follow along workout. I've got loads of follow along workouts you can get involved with, and hopefully I'll see you again soon for another video.